Have you ever wondered why we feel the need to categorize and classify everything around us? It's a question that tickles the mind, doesn't it? Well, let's delve into this puzzle of classification. The human brain is a powerhouse of information processing. Every waking moment, our senses are bombarded with a multitude of stimuli, and our brain works tirelessly to make sense of it all. But how does it achieve this Herculean task? The answer lies in the simple yet powerful process of classification. Classification is our brain's way of simplifying and ordering this chaotic world. By grouping similar things together, it reduces the complexity of our environment. It's like sorting a messy drawer of trinkets into neat little compartments. Suddenly, everything becomes easier to understand and navigate. Take, for instance, the countless species of plants and animals around us. Imagine trying to study them without any system of classification. It would be like attempting to read a book without any chapters or paragraphs. Quite a task, isn't it? This is where classification swoops in as our savior, neatly arranging these species into groups based on their similarities and differences. This tendency to classify is not a modern invention. It's been a part of human civilization since ancient times. Early humans classified plants and animals based on their utility, those that could be eaten, those that were dangerous, and so on. This basic classification was their survival toolkit, their way of interacting safely and effectively with their environment. But as human knowledge expanded, so did the complexity of our classifications. From simple utilitarian groupings, we've moved to intricate systems that reflect our deepening understanding of the world. Scientific classification now spans across multiple fields, from biology and chemistry to astronomy and even social sciences. So classification is inherent to our understanding of the world, but how has it evolved over time? The methods of classification have been as diverse and evolving as human civilization itself. This is a truism that echoes through the annals of history, as our understanding of the world expanded and refined. Let's take a moment to journey back in time and trace the chronology of classification. In the beginning, the earliest methods of classification were rather straightforward. They were based primarily on observable characteristics such as color, size, shape, or habitat. This primitive system was useful for basic survival needs, and while simple, it laid the foundation for the intricate classification systems to come. As we moved into the Middle Ages, classification systems began to incorporate philosophical and religious perspectives. This was a time when science and religion were closely intertwined, and it was reflected in the way species and objects were classified. For instance, animals were often grouped according to their symbolic significance in religious texts, which led to some rather unique and creative classifications. However, as we transitioned into the modern era, science began to separate from religious and philosophical perspectives, leading to a more empirical approach to classification. The advent of technologies such as microscopes and later genetic sequencing allowed us to delve deeper into the intricacies of life forms. This led to the development of modern classification systems that are based on a multitude of criteria, including genetic similarities, evolutionary relationships, and biochemical properties. In our present day, we have a variety of classification systems, each with its own strength and focus. The Linnean system, for instance, is renowned for its simplicity and practicality, while the phylogenetic system is praised for its ability to reflect evolutionary relationships. Yet it's important to note that despite the increasing sophistication, these methods are not without their challenges and limitations. As our understanding of the world continues to expand, so too will the methods we use to categorize and understand it. And as we look to the future, we can only wonder at the new ways in which we'll classify the world around us. These methods, while increasingly sophisticated, are not without their challenges and limitations. Unlike two faces of a coin, classification too has its merits and demerits. Let's start with the merits, shall we? One of the most obvious advantages of classification is that it facilitates communication. Imagine trying to describe a lion to someone without using the word lion. You'd have to describe its mane, its roar, its habitat. It'd be quite the task, wouldn't it? By categorizing things into groups, we can communicate more effectively and efficiently. Next up, classification aids in identification. Think about a botanist in a forest. surrounded by a myriad of plant species. With a classification system in place, they can identify and categorize these plants easily. Without it, they'd be lost in a sea of green with no way to distinguish one plant from another. And let's not forget about scientific research. Classification forms the bedrock of many scientific endeavors. By classifying organisms, for example, scientists can study their evolution and relationships, leading to discoveries that advance our understanding of life on Earth. But as with all things, classification isn't perfect. It has its demerits too. One of these is the potential for oversimplification. In our quest to categorize and classify, we may overlook the complexities and variations within a group. Take humans, for instance. We're all classified as Homo sapiens, but we're incredibly varied in terms of culture, language, physical traits, and so much more. Another challenge is the difficulty of classifying complex and varied entities. Consider the classification of diseases. There are so many factors involved: symptoms, causes, treatments, and new diseases are being discovered all the time. It's a monumental task to create a classification system that's comprehensive, yet manageable and useful. Despite its challenges, classification remains a crucial tool in our quest to understand the world. And as we continue to refine our methods and approach, we can only hope to improve our understanding, making our world a little less puzzling, one classification at a time. Nomenclature, or the naming of things, is the final piece of the classification puzzle. With classification, we arrange the vast array of knowledge into manageable and logical categories. But how do we identify these categories? This is where nomenclature steps in. Imagine you're at a party, amidst a crowd of unfamiliar faces. It's quite likely that you'll forget most of them by the end of the night. Now, imagine that each of these faces had a name and identity. Suddenly, they're easier to remember, aren't they? That's exactly what nomenclature does. It gives an identity to each category, making it simpler to remember and refer to. But it's not just about giving names. It's also about giving the right names. Nomenclature isn't a random process, but a carefully thought out one. It follows certain principles, ensuring that each name is unique and meaningful. It's like a language with its own grammar and syntax that we all agree to follow. Now you might wonder, why can't we just use any names we like? Well, imagine if we all started making up our own words in a conversation. It would be complete pandemonium, wouldn't it? The same applies to nomenclature. To avoid confusion and ensure clear communication, we need a universally accepted system of naming. This is where internationally accepted standards of nomenclature come in. These standards offer a common language that scientists around the world can use, ensuring that a species identified in one country is recognized in another. No matter where we are or what language we speak, these standards enable us to understand each other. But like all systems, even nomenclature has its challenges. It can be complex and hard to master. Sometimes it can even lead to conflicts. Yet, despite these challenges, the benefits of a standardized nomenclature far outweigh the drawbacks. With a standardized nomenclature, we can communicate clearly, avoiding the chaos of misinterpretation. Because in the end, clarity is what truly matters, isn't it? And with the right names, we can achieve just that. Well, what does the future hold for classification and nomenclature? A question that echoes in the minds of scientists, researchers, and curious minds alike. As we stand on the precipice of the new age of technology and understanding, it's time to peer into what the future might have in store for these fundamental tools of knowledge. The future of classification is likely to be more nuanced, flexible, and dynamic than ever before. As our understanding of the world deepens, we're beginning to see that the traditional rigid categories might not always serve us best. The world is not black and white, but a myriad of colors, shades, and hues. The same goes for the subjects we study. A species might not fit neatly into one category or another. An object could be both a wave and a particle. In the future, we might see classification systems that reflect this complexity, that are capable of capturing the richness and diversity of our world. Technology, too, will play a pivotal role in shaping the future of classification. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, for instance, could automate and refine the process of classification, making it more accurate and efficient. Imagine a world where AI algorithms sift through vast amounts of data, spotting patterns and making connections that would take us humans years to figure out. That's the potential future of classification. As for nomenclature, the future is about refinement and standardization. There are ongoing efforts to create a universal, internationally accepted system of nomenclature. A system that is clear, consistent, and easy to use, minimizing confusion and promoting effective communication. As our world becomes more interconnected, the need for such a system becomes even more pressing. In conclusion, the future of classification and nomenclature is bright and promising. It's a future where these tools, honed by centuries of human knowledge, are further sharpened by technology and a deepening understanding of our world. As we continue to explore and understand our world, the tools of classification and nomenclature will continue to evolve with us. Subscribe for more intriguing insights into the world around us.